Back and better than ever, despite a slight delay. This is Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube, wherever you may be, however you may be listening. First show of November, at least first show of November that I'm a part of. After 2 weeks, was on a little bit of a vacation the first week of November, and then scheduling conflicts with a couple of with all three of us, really, truthfully, if we're being honest here, for last week, prevented us from being on. I think we're only going to end November with like 2 shows because next week's our obligatory holiday off. With Thanksgiving already next week somehow, some way. And then I think we do fall on a Wednesday for the last show of November. So
These
at
are
least
the
we'll get a couple.
negotiated union holidays. So unfortunately, for Steve's bottom line, we will have to go on break.
They wanted the week of Columbus Day. I said, no, we're not giving it to him. We're not giving it to, we're not giving it to Columbus over here.
That was
You
all
know,
Joe. He's Joe 100% supports Christopher. No, I'm not doing that to him. I'm not doing that to him. No, no, no.
Yeah, the man's taking a month off. That's the unfortunate part, though. Joe won't be joining us for the next couple of weeks. I mean, he's not missing anything next week, but I think until the second week of December, I think he said, due to school conflicts and things like that. So we're gonna have to make do without our partner over here. It's gonna be the gruesome twosome here for a while. But honestly, the scheduling worked out pretty nicely, I would say, despite the week I had to take off because you guys did 5 nights at Freddy's the first day of November. I think it worked out either way or on Halloween rather, but I think it worked out pretty swimmingly, no less, because this was a good show, I think, to do a special like this South Park special to
Yeah.
review this, because then we're going to parlay it and talk about the SAG-AFTRA strike, which we've not had a chance to touch on yet. And I thought about, like, I really thought about it, talking about the Coyote versus Acme story over the SAG-AFTRA strike, but then I thought we spent so much time talking about the actors strike. I think it would be a disservice if we don't talk about the conclusion of it. And the Coyote versus Acme story kind of now has a happy ending, at least in a way, that somebody will pick that movie up now that it's being shopped around. Somebody is going to pick that movie up, despite how
Batgirl
frustrating it
crawled
is.
so Wile E. Coyote could could run.
Something like that. Yeah. Even though as frustrating and disappointing as it is, because you had, like if here's the thing, I was talking to somebody about this. I said, if Looney Tunes isn't sacred to Warner Brothers, nothing is sacred. Watch them cancel the next Clint Eastwood movie.
He's
You
old
know,
enough. He doesn't have that much sway anymore. At this point, it's like Eastwood is more like a legacy, like more the prestige than anything else. That's not hurting anyone's bottom line.
but as far as like canceling a Looney Tunes movie, that was just batshit crazy to me. Like, you could argue Batgirl, like, as sad as it is, I don't support any of this, but like, you could argue Batgirl was going to be a risk. I feel like canceling Coyote versus Acme, it was a slam dunk. You know what I mean?
It's already done. That's the thing. It's so
I know they're
crazy.
done too. That's the whole other
I
part of it
I
too.
was seeing some some speculation, not even speculation, some suggestion that, okay, if they're not gonna release it properly, put it in the Library of Congress and just allow people to like check it out one at a time. Just how crazy would that be if you could just like, yes, one debut for Batgirl
I think I
at the
retweeted that. I
Library
think
of
I
Congress.
be on a 14-year waiting list
Yeah,
for for that movie. But we're going
that's
to
so.
talk about the SAG-AFTRA strike, including, I know Dominic is primed to talk about that, so we'll have that on the way, as well as the South Park joining the Panderverse, which is going to be our main movie today. And it was just around the time I started thinking, I think it was Joe who sent me it. I remember I mentioned like last month, I said like, they haven't made any South Park specials this year. The last one was the Streaming Wars Part 2, and that was the tail end of last year. And then I think Joe sent to the group chat, he said, this literally just dropped today, and it was the 30-second teaser when it was billed as a new exclusive event. And here it is. It's South Park joining the Panderverse, which is a totally different concept series, narrative arc than the previous ones. This is now the fifth special that they have done, not counting the pandemic special and the vaccination special. This is the fifth special. There is post-COVID, the return of COVID, the Streaming Wars, and the Streaming Wars Part 2. So what you have here is this one is divorced from the plot lines of post-COVID and the Streaming Wars. This one is packs a lot of shit into a 48-minute special.
I was impressed, actually, just how dense, not the material, but just how many plot points and stuff that they. Ironically, this is South Park's multiverse episode or multiverse storyline, and yet it's also probably one of the shortest ones they have coming out of this slate yet, which is I guess part of the comedy.
The funny thing is, it feels like it was trying to be like an episode or something like that.
It did. It felt very much like an episode, which is not
like
a
an
complaint
episode.
necessarily.
And like somebody's got to tell these guys. Somebody's got to tell like Trey and Matt that like you have extra time now. You know what I mean? With the like you could have fleshed this out to an hour if need be. You didn't have to make it like 48 minutes or whatever it was, especially with how much is in this thing. But either way, I think it's very funny. I think it's very effective. It essentially tackles a lot of things, such as like forced wokeness, forced diversity. There's actually I didn't make that term up. There's a Wikipedia page called forced wokeness, which is again, if it's a Wikipedia page, it's an actual term. But it tackles that. It tackles sort of forced diversity in film and TV. And then it also really makes a caricature out of Kathleen Kennedy, the woman behind Lucasfilm.
She gets a drubbing here in this freaking special.
This is great. This is like one of those ones where it's like, God, I would have paid to have seen the actor actually, the person actually watch this thing and react to it. And then I also think the most effective plot line of this whole thing is the white collar workers don't know how to do shit anymore. And because the ascent, like, it messes with the multiverse. It's almost fruitless trying to explain how this whole thing is. But essentially, Cartman keeps having nightmares about being dropped into a universe where all his friends and he himself are like women of color who bitch about the patriarchy. So eventually then he gets sucked into a multiverse, another universe where he is amongst like women of color bitching about the patriarchy, where his character, a woman of color, gets placed into the world with Kyle, Stan, and Kenny. And then it results in him like confronting Kathleen Kennedy about ruining like a lot of childhood properties that he held dear because it like with legacy sequels and needless characters and things like that. And then you have the subplot involving Randy, who's very tolerable here for a change, that talks about how his like kids don't know how to do anything, and there's this great scene where he's trying to teach Stan and Shelly how to fix the oven door, and so because the oven door is broken, and then says, first thing we do, we call the handyman.
Classic.
Exactly.
That is a joke directly pointed at my dad and
my dad.
Yep.
And my dad. Yes. And all of our dads, like, I think if you grew up in the suburbs, like, I don't know how to do shit. And it wasn't until I like started to live on my own, I realized I don't know how to do shit.
Same.
Like I was like, I know how to Google like the phone number for a plumber. That's what I know how to do. And like, if you're a blue collar worker, like, I mean, I've always said you get, if all the plumbers, electricians, maintenance people went on strike for a week, janitors, we would not have a country in like 4 days. It's as simple as that. Utility workers, shit, a water main busted by the radio station this week. And I'm like, and after having just watched this thing, I'm like, God, like, if South Park's anything, these guys have like Rolls Royces and had to be bribed by the city to do this job.
As someone who has, I have a cousin who works at the rail yard. Hi Catherine. She she just shows up sometimes.
She just leers sometimes. You can see yourself in the background here.
Try putting a blanket on. Maybe that'll cover it. I don't know. Or not. I don't care. I don't dictate your life. But I have a cousin in the rail yard where it's like, yeah, so we're starting to offload all the Christmas shit. And it's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure if you guys just stopped working for like a day or two, there would just be no Christmas. Like, absolutely, the holidays are just gone, particularly transportation, just a complete stoppage in this country. Yeah, it would be something else. We are talking about strikes later. Beside the point.
But yeah, those are essentially the 2 or 3 plot lines that are very much in this whole thing. And there's also, it almost comes back to like an earlier South Park episode where what is it, like the joke is that like I can't remember the exact thing. They have to write an essay. And so like Cartman tells the boys, I can't remember what episode this is, but I remember this distinctly. Like Cartman tells the boys that like the guys then that they can go to Home Depot where the Mexicans hang out, where the illegal immigrants hang out and pay them to do things they don't want to do, like write essays. And then they come back to pick up their like school reports and they're like, "No, you told me to write my essay. I wrote my essay in Tijuana."
Oh my God.
That's what it reminded me of, because then the joke is the white collar dads of South Park hang out in front of Home Depot trying to track down handymen to do labor, as opposed to the other way around. I saw Joe's Letterboxd review of this thing, and he said, like, as good as that plot line is, the handyman subplot I kind of enjoyed more and got more laughs out of, even though I think both are very strong. What say you?
Yeah, this was an episode. This was surprisingly an interesting send up of a little bit of class, class consciousness, but also just how it's wokeness, which is a term used by conservatives to kind of it's a very muddled conversation. But rainbow capitalism is the term I prefer to use, which is like, yeah, if we just put a pride flag or a BLM flag on our military industrial complex, missile, then we can just keep bombing people in the Middle East, shit like that, where it's like, yeah, we can just get away with this. And it fools a surprising number of people, but
shocking number of people.
Yeah, exactly. But I think more and more a lot of people were never hoodwinked by that, but I think more and more people are coming around to it. Now,
not to interrupt you, you know what growing up that was, not to interrupt you, but you know what growing up before, like, I don't know, circa like 2012, 13, when companies started leaning into politics. You know what I think the original, I think the original one was, and it's not like this was a divisive topic, but it was fucking everywhere, was like, you could call it pink ribbon capitalism, breast cancer.
Yeah.
Remember in like the 2000s when like everything from like Jolly Green Giant to Tide had a fucking pink ribbon on it. Like that like, and again, like breast cancer, even in the day and age where everything's controversial, is not controversial, but it was everywhere. Like how he said, like Susan G. Komen's kids are set for life.
100%. That actually brings me back now to the Margaritaville South Park episode where Cartman has AIDS, but because it's the old disease, it's like the not exciting disease anymore. It's like, it's all cancer now. That's the cool disease. It's like, oh, okay. And then Jimmy Buffett shows up. You could actually write a sequel for that, because now Jimmy Buffett's gone. Margaritaville is ubiquitous. And now it's like, yeah, cancer is now becoming the boring old disease. But now it's COVID. But regardless,
now it's COVID. You gotta have something real debilitating like ALS.
Yeah, to bring in the money. But anyway, yeah, I mean, honestly, that is the theme that a lot of these episodes come down to, which I am happy for, which is that it does come down to the money. Now, pretty much anytime we talk about South Park, I have to say that I have an on and off relationship with it, just watching it. It's just one of those things it's an American icon. It's always there in the background. It's like Law and Order. It's like The Simpsons, etc. Morning news, you could even say. But with South Park, my one big overarching gripe with South Park is how the messaging, it kind of falls into this pit of despair but the pit happens to be in the middle, more or less. And it's like, well, if you just get too centrist and too doomer, it just kind of demotivates people's will to live. And that's not really, I'm not saying you are required to inspire people or that you are required to make people happy every episode, but it's like the larger trend here is that this is just not healthy. It's not even like a good message at all. That's not the positive, just not, this is just bad. And that has been my one major gripe with South Park over the years, but I have not really watched too much South Park except for the occasional specials that we review. So if they've gotten better with it, great. If someone wants to point me out for that, sure. But that was my big gripe. I think I can kind of safely say that this episode did not fall into that centrism pit of despair where it's like, oh yeah, we punched these guys and then we punched these guys over here. it really did just feel like they were punching at the money. Because, yeah, sometimes it's not even a both sides. Hello. Is that Ebert or is that Siskel?
This is Siskel.
Oh. Is there a defining
cameo.
marker between the two, or is it you just kind of have to be there?
This one weighs about 7 pounds less.
Siskel weighs less?
Yeah. Yeah, Siskel weighs less.
Okay.
Just like in real life.
Yeah. But with I won't go there. With this episode, it was I'll be honest, it wasn't even that hard to be able to punch at both sides because the problem with this kind of rainbow capitalism or this forced wokeness or whatever those terms really mean is that, yeah, you're just kind of making bad art and you're just using the diversity as a crutch, because diversity in media is actually important. There are sociological, like, positive things when you include maybe not a white person, one person in your story, and like expose people to greater viewpoints and greater walks of life. That is actually important. And I don't think, if you are somewhat media literate, I do not believe that South Park, that episode, necessarily disagreed with that statement. It really just was more so that, well, okay, here's my critique on the message, which is that they kind of put all the blame on Kathleen Kennedy, which, sure, there absolutely is that. And maybe there wasn't enough, or I don't know, maybe I missed it. There was not enough of a snide remark against the shareholders, or maybe Bob Iger himself, because it almost looked like Bob Iger was cucked to Kathleen Kennedy's wishes and whims. But
that's how they definitely made it, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. When in actuality, it's the other way around. But anyway, that's very much in the weeds. That's my political grandstanding on South Park. Overall, I am very satisfied with this episode, and the standout performance here has got to go to, I'm going to get this wrong, Jane Shea Adams Ginyard, who voices Panderverse Eric Cartman. The writing was copy-pasted probably from decades of episodes of South Park, and the performance was incredible. The performance was perfection.
She was pretty sharp. She was pretty sharp.
This really was the black Eric Cartman, the black female, probably gay Eric Cartman, 100%. That was pretty good. And you know what? That actress, she was in both Black Panthers.
Was she really?
Falcon and the Winter Soldier. She is one of the Dora Milaje, the bald warrior women who from Wakanda.
You think she's invited back on a Disney set after this?
Probably not. I don't know. Very gutsy of her to take that role and to say those lines when she's taking that Disney paycheck. Maybe after Wakanda Forever, they cut her loose. But she even has a named role. Her name is Nomble, which is, I'm sure, very, very minor. But she has speaking roles, and she has a named role in the Black Panther series.
Well, and I mean, not like totally apples to oranges, but I said the same thing with like Trey Parker and Matt Stone. I swear to God, the streaming wars was an attack on Paramount at the time, because even though Paramount's paying them an ungodly amount of money to make these specials and stuff, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but Paramount had done something. I'm trying to go back and contextualize what exactly it was, like looking back, but I almost thought of it as like a critique on like Paramount either control or something like that, or some, you know what I mean? Like something to do with like either Paramount overreaching or something about residuals or something like that. Like it was almost like about the whole like streaming services getting like, you know, amalgamized into everything else. I almost thought of it as kind of like a response to that in a way.
We are at a point. Steve, have you seen Black Mirror? Have you seen the episode of Black Mirror? Slight tangent, but I'll loop it back around. The episode of Black Mirror, it's like the second one in season 1, where it's like 15 million merits. It's the Daniel Kaluuya. He is
I know which one you're talking about. I have not seen it though. I know of that one.
okay.
It's been recommended to me before. It's not one of the ones I've seen though.
Slight spoilers, but the ending to that one is that it incorporates the main character's grievances. Like this main character, he like rises up against this dystopian, horrible, unfair system, and he makes a plea on the broadcast, on live television to everyone, the populace, saying, "Hey, this is wrong. This is horrible. Your system sucks." And the system, the people that be, they were like, "This guy's really popular. What if we incorporate him into our programming?" So he kind of becomes a controlled opposition.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, he's saying the things that could bring the system down, but in actuality, it's kind of baked into the system, so the system is actually safe. That's a bigger concept there, but I think we're at a point now where if an episode that went this hard on a specific power broker in Hollywood, if that went on the air 20 years ago, that might have done some like serious damage to that person's public image. And that person may not have had the wherewithal to be able to like keep it cool, talk to your PR, just stay low, just keep pulling the strings, whatever. Nowadays, we're well past that. South Park itself has been on the air for over 20 years, 25 years? I don't even know anymore. Many, many episodes. And it is at a point where you know what Trey and Matt are going to do, more or less. You don't know exactly how they're going to do it, but you know they're going to take a jab at you. They're going to take a jab at everyone. That's what they do. So if you just play it cool, it's fine. Everyone can, the companies, the studios, the execs, they know how to take the hits now. They absolutely know how to do that. They've had decades of training, PR training, and how to handle that. So it's interesting to see. Yeah, it's really interesting to see how South Park can swing wide with these seemingly haymakers, but it's also just as interesting to see how almost milquetoast it is these days. How we're just so used to it. Do you get what I'm saying, Steve?
It's a great point. I also think that it helps in this situation that like. I think if you were to ask 10 or 15 people just on the street or who you work with who Kathleen Kennedy was, I would be shocked if half of them knew who she was.
Isn't he running for president?
Yeah, I think you'd get a lot of that. I think it helps that, like, you know, the internet's not the world. Like, I think I read like 8% of the world is on Twitter or something like that. And when you think of it in that scheme, like, it's really not a lot of people. And of the 8% on Twitter, like, less than probably maybe 4%, you know, 4% or 5% of that 8
as
use it
someone
every
on the
day.
left who is on Twitter, that is an obscenely high number, it seems like. So
yeah, exactly, because it's a lot of young people. It's you know what I mean, especially in America and whatnot. But I also think what you said is really valid, though, is that like I think in the 90s and like the 2000s and the early era of South Park and stuff, there were some celebrities that got really offended by the way that they were portrayed on South Park and such. But I also think now with social media, artists are so used to being called every sort of despicable name on the planet in their mentions and everything like that, that like when there's a crisis every day I always say, what's the new crisis? Like, what are we pissed off about today? Like what's frustrating the whole bowels of the internet today that's not going to matter here in 48 hours? I think that like South Park is kind of the same thing in a way, albeit to a much higher quality, that in the eyes of the celebrities that are being lampooned, it's like, it's no worse than anything that you hear maybe on Twitter or some of the foul memes people create of celebrities and whatnot. At least with this, there's at least some wit behind it and some artistry and some craft and some quality jokes and stuff. I think that's all. I think coupled with the fact that Trey and Matt really don't single out anybody on one particular side, and the fact of just how heinous of a hotbed it is on social media, I think that decries a lot of the outrage and a lot of like why you don't see like headlines that say like Kathleen Kennedy lashes out at her portrayal on South Park or something like that. Because no, conventional wisdom would make you think that you would see that far more often.
Yeah, 100%. It's a matter. There's so much nuance in the debate South Park is talking about, let alone the nuance of the South Park episode itself. And it's a very tricky thing because, of course, I'm going to think I've got it all figured out. I know exactly what Trey and Matt are talking about, but also maybe I don't. Maybe there is some racism here. I don't think so. And as a longtime watcher, on and off, but God, it's been part of our lives for so long, I think we've got a hold on it. And knowing Trey and Matt's deficiencies and their blind spots in societal, their societal critiques, particularly with the term South Park Republican. That was a thing for a while. Very edgy libertarian kind of thing. I was like, oh, okay, all right, get over yourselves. But I think they're coming around to it now. Say again.
We didn't talk about it on the show. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about it on the show, but there's a great documentary from, I think now it was last year. It was George Carlin, An American Dream, the 2-part documentary on Carlin that's on HBO Max. And there's a good part in that, I think, because Judd Apatow was the one who produced that documentary. Apatow said in the documentary, he said, it's really fascinating. He specifically brought up the pandemic. He's like, how both Republicans and Democrats use Carlin to back up their points. And I feel like South Park is kind of in some ways very similar because they toe the centrist lines so deftly that in a way that, like, maybe that's another one of their secrets to their success. Also, like you said, one of their blind spots, but it's not like Real Time with Bill Maher or something like that clearly is for one side of the aisle, or like Family Guy, which is flamingly liberal. Like it's more about like how everybody gets their just due and they're attacking all sides, and they never make any qualms about that. And it's not like they've changed from doing that either. They've been doing that since the very beginning. So I at least admire, if nothing else, I understand the blind spots and the centrism and the harm, the potential harmfulness of like not really hammering in on a point. But I also would say they've been pretty consistently doing that for as long as the show's been on.
When the curtain closes on their careers, that's the thing that they'll be fondly remembered for. Honestly, Carlin is an excellent example, a comparison, just because of the satirism there. Of course, I'm going to say that considering that he put him on Carlin, I almost called him Carl. Carlin went on Bill Maher's show and called the U.S. government straight up fascist. It's like, I think he leans a little more to the left.
I agree.
And I think if you think he's conservative to any even amount, I think you've got some media illiteracy there. But again, that's just our opinion. But
he was also the one who went on that brilliant monologue about Reagan and said how like Reagan at the time, who knows, it's probably Trump now, but he said Reagan at the time had the most indicted people in his cabinet, had the most like federally like indicted, charged criminal people in his cabinet. And he's like, and I remember he said his dutiful wife Nancy wanted to get crime and drugs off the streets so they could keep it in Congress.
Oh boy, we could go on and on about the dissection of which jokes hit where, but yeah, I think
so. You did like Panderverse though, in so many words.
We did like Panderverse because it's a send up of multiverse stuff. One of my favorite forms of parody and satire is when it parodies a format or parodies a genre while also doing it itself. So in this case,
that can annoy me sometimes,
it can be bad.
I think that annoyed me about the Streaming Wars Part 2. But go on.
Yeah. But the fact that this episode was South Park's multiverse episode that legitimately did have a diverse cast of characters, but they were the target of it. They were the target of the jokes, but not like they weren't on like the firing line necessarily. They were in the hot seat, but not against the firing wall. And I think that's the thing that lefty critics are going to be looking at it, where it's like, oh boy, hold on, look at that poster. Why they're making fun of Black and Latina women here? And it's like, well, yeah, but I think how they're used and abused in media. Of course, I could always say that they could have gone a little more punching up in that regard. But at the end of the day, that's probably the best we're going to get. And I'm just glad that we got a cohesive episode, and 2, a message that wasn't utterly garbage. And if Gina Carano thinks that it was totally on her side this episode, then that's a her problem. So whatever.
What's your star? We'll go into closing thoughts here. What's your star rating?
3 out of 4, a very solid episode, and I am actually a fan of the longer like arcs, multi-episode arcs, but when they can just get it all in one thing, I'm also pretty happy about that.
No, I agree too. I agree too with all the points that you made. I give it 3.5 out of 4 stars. I will say though, I did love. There's one line in it when they go to the principal's office with diverse Cartman, and they're making the point where like PC principals over here seeing is like don't you think it's weird that Cartman is suddenly a black woman, and he's like no, I don't see anything wrong with that at
Nothing wrong with
all.
that.
And then he goes like, and he goes, I suppose you also have a problem with Black Spider-Man. And Stan goes, no, Miles Morales is awesome. He's got his own character arc and his own narrative. He's a completely different character. This is just taking something that existed and changing it for no reason. Like, and I
That's
think
a classic
that's the
line.
valid.
I
think that's the valid point there.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I don't have a problem with the main character being black now. Okay, yeah, sure, in the usual meta conversation of the casting, but here there's a legitimate problem because a child is missing and it's been replaced by this random person, and it's like, okay, that's what I'm
Who's
looking for.
significantly older.
Yeah, Yeah, what was up with that? It's still a grade school or was it a high school? I never caught that.
Well, yeah, that was the thing. It's like I thought
These
if
are
anything
adults.
they would make them like because when I first saw the poster, I was really confused because I'm like, are they supposed to be high schoolers?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because they talk like high schoolers and they like act like high schoolers. I mean, granted, like the kids talk pretty mature and everything like that. That the kids have kind of matured
These
with
days,
society
yes.
despite
Well,
being,
kind of always.
you know, in the earlier episodes, I feel like they were far more innocent. Like
Yeah,
it's
100%.
like I always think
They
of
were
that return that
kindergartners, yeah.
yeah, like I always think of the Lord of the Rings episode when they're taking the porno back, but they don't know it's a porno. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then Butters watches it and like he thinks it's Lord of the Rings. Like that's what I mean about like they sometimes operated like kids.
100%. And it's so obvious whenever it's neither Trey nor Matt's voicing a character, because they usually don't get a person of color to voice characters of color. It's literally just Trey and Matt. Even if it's literally Obama, it's just Trey or Matt doing the regular voice. They're not even going for the impression.
There was only Isaac Hayes as chef.
Or Isaac Hayes. Isaac Hayes was the exception for the longest time. But in the other case, even if the character is black, Asian, whatever, it's just Trey and Matt. Not even, well, in some cases, yes, but if it's not an exceedingly exaggerated character. But here, it's so painfully obvious that they actually did. Again, I like it when they actually do the thing while making fun of it. They actually did bring in a lot of diverse voice actors to voice all the characters, at least the original characters here. And I think, again, that I like the layered joke of it all.
That was a good way to wrap up before the intermission. We'll come on back and talk about the SAG-AFTRA strike. I know, Dom, you've had to be quiet for the last couple of weeks, been salivating over commenting on this as well. This is why, truthfully. You got a Google Doc or no?
No Google Doc.
Oh, because I was going to do over under 6-page Google Doc. What are we looking at here? No, I can't wait. I'm going to have you lead that discussion. I think you already assume, but I'm going to have you lead the discussion on the SAG-AFTRA strike over here as that has wrapped up. We will come back in about 60 to 90 seconds. Do not go anywhere. This is Sleepless with Steve live on YouTube, back in the middle of November on this Wednesday evening. Be back in a few. Back and better than ever on this Wednesday evening. It is Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube, coming to you live and in living color every Wednesday, unless it's the month of November 2023 when we're a little all over the place with scheduling conflicts, travel, whatever have you. Next week is Thanksgiving. We will be off, but we will return the final week of November with a rousing review of Good Burger 2, which I know we're all super excited for, very eagerly anticipating. You know, there's a Good Burger 2 meal at Arby's now.
Really? Arby's?
I know, of all the restaurants, they have a Good Burger meal at Arby's. Think it, like I would have thought if you would have said Good Burger's got a meal King somewhere, I would have guessed Burger King or Wendy's.
Wendy's would have been a good alternative, yeah.
You know, like, and I'm like, I said one of my buddies did go to Arby's and he did see it on the menu and he took a picture of it. And I will say that, like, aside from like the streaming soon on Paramount Plus tag on the menu, it looks so 90s. I don't have high hopes for this movie at all, especially after being like permanently disgusted and offended by Zoe 102. I have no expectations for this thing at all whatsoever. But I will say Kel Mitchell hasn't acted in like 10 years, so it is going to be cool to see him regardless.
As long as he's happy, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a bad movie, but I'll be happy.
Yeah, I can't see this one mortally offending me, especially given how stupid the first Good Burger. You've seen Good Burger, right?
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of the sketches, and then also the original movie with not Lou Ferrigno. What's his name? He was Tessio in Godfather. God damn it.
Abe Vigoda.
There you go.
Abe Vigoda, the old guy who falls down, whose crowning line in that movie, he falls down and he says, "I think I broke my ass."
Yeah, I remember virtually nothing from that movie, and I think I might be inserting memories of Keenan and Kel, but yeah,
you probably are, because it's very easy to confuse the two.
Yeah.
I've seen the Good Burger movie like 3 times. I love it. You know who's surprisingly not recast in Good Burger 2? You know who's so shockingly not recast?
Oh.
Mr. Bailey, played by Dan Schneider, shockingly not recast in Good Burger 2. Schneider wrote that movie, I want to say.
The first one?
I think the first Good Burger. I think he wrote or co-wrote that movie. I think he wrote or co-wrote it. I know he wrote Big Fat Liar. That was his last movie credit, was Big Fat Liar.
Big Fat Liar? Really?
Yeah, he wrote that. That I'm positive on.
Wow. Okay.
That I'm positive on. I have to look. I have to double check. Because you know what? The one other fun fact? Yeah, he co-wrote. He was one of 3 writers. Schneider was one of 3 writers on Good Burger.
Okay. 3 writers. That needed 3 writers.
Yeah, I know, right? Tell me about it. No, the last point I want to make about Good Burger, and I'm saving all my good material for.
Oh, did we lose him?
I'm spoiling all my good material now for this for 2 weeks from now. The other funny part: Good Burger was directed by a man named Brian Robbins. Brian Robbins went on to be the CEO of Paramount.
Oh, is he currently the CEO?
Is he? He is. Yep, he still is CEO of Paramount Pictures and Nickelodeon.
Goodness gracious, that's a trajectory from Good Burger to Paramount Plus, or just Paramount. Period. That's like
the CEO. You ready for this? The CEO of Paramount directed fucking Norbit.
Oh, that does explain a few things.
And Meet Dave. Like, shout out Brian Robbins.
Dave. Dave, that's a good movie. Meet Dave, not quite.
Yeah, has a very now it looks bad because he also was one of the producers and like story writers for a Big Fat Liar. There's a little bit of Schneider connection here that's a little unsettling for my taste. Little bit of a connection.
So the actors' strike ended.
Yes, indeed. We'll talk about that. We will get into this next week.
I was enjoying that, for the record. I was thoroughly enjoying that.
Thank you for getting me back on course there. Jesus Christ, we need a producer. Continue, my friend. Continue.
Yeah, so I mean, they did it. They won concessions. It's been a hot strike summer, hot fall strikes, hot fall. So I don't even know anymore. The hashtags can go away. It's been a good time for working class folks. 118 days actor strike, and it has been ratified with an 86% approval vote. It's been ratified by 160,000 person membership. They have won some sterling concessions here. Again, you shoot for with how the art of the deal. You shoot for the moon, and then you do your best. You're not going to get 100%, but you're good. If it's a good deal, then you can get most of it, or at least get the really important things. And from what I have seen so far, and what other people are also analyzing, is they concur. So there's a lot of great info on the SAG-AFTRA website. And of course, disclaimer, it is their website, and what I'm about to show you are their documents. But it's a pretty good summation of what they put out there. So this is a 17-page document sans the title page here. And we're not going to go piece by piece here, because there's a lot of, it's not even legalese. It's just so many points, all of it important. One thing that struck me here, I don't know if you noticed this, Steve, right away. The first point is, that's like the introductory paragraph. The second point, which is the real, like, hey, here's the issues. Artificial intelligence, right away. You notice that on page 1 of the real thing? And also, yes, it takes up 6 pages. The first 6 pages are all AI. And I am supremely happy about that, because we had gone on and on about how that was such an existential thing. And how not only that, this was to my knowledge, the first piece of not legislation, but rather legally binding agreement that actually puts, I almost hate, I'm not even going to say limitations, but guardrails on worker protections for AI, right? Because if I say limitations, that's going to sound like we're just pounding the technology into the dirt. Let's just be Luddites, whatever. No, this is going to protect people and actually make sure that it's not David Zaslav swinging the Zaslav hammer on people's livelihoods, so that a stadium full of people can just be one dude copy pasted, et cetera, et cetera. But yes, I'm actually going to go to, on that AI note, the second document here. This one's actually a lot cleaner, regulating artificial intelligence. The main thing here that you have to understand with this document is that it provides a legal framework for studios to follow. Because before, it was the Wild West. You could practically do anything, and you might win a fringe case if the studios are extremely sloppy with their rear protection, and they pissed off their lawyers that day, they might lose a case. But in most other cases before, historically, you really didn't get all that much in terms of legal protection. So now you have a clear definition, right? Employment-based digital replica, independently created digital replica, and it's like, hey, here's exactly what that means. It was created during a performer's employment with their physical participation and used to portray the performer in scenes that they didn't actually shoot. That is extremely important definition there. And it's there for the record. And so now, and let me say this also. Yes, studios, bigwigs, whoever, they're going to circumnavigate these rules. Absolutely. They're going to poke holes. They're going to poke and prod around it. They're going to try and find ways to, squeeze as much of the actor's face. What's Superman? The OG Superman. What's his actor's name? Christopher Reeve, right? Yeah, Christopher Reeve. They're just going to try and squeeze Christopher Reeve's face into as many Supermen as possible. Okay, I don't know actually what that does in terms of habeas corpus for like previous people, but at least now we have that protection, or it exists, and they can sue. They can be sued if they don't follow this framework. Second page there, generative artificial intelligence. So now that's like ChatGPT shit, where it's like, okay, it's not just taking your face anymore. It's that we can just create stuff out of a pool of information that we've gathered before from other people's work. A subset of AI that learns patterns from data and produces content based on these platforms, able to simulate a performer's voice, facial expressions, and movements to create entirely new content. And there are things like there's the consent notification, the guidelines, 48 hours a a digital replica has to be notified. So it's not like they can hoodwink you. It's like, oh, okay, actor, just sign on the bottom line here. We got you now. Okay, well, we signed this contract 5 minutes before the shoot, so they're good now. No, it's the 48 hours is there for a reason. It's to give time for the people's lawyers or for time to be like, hey, wait a second. I think I just shot something that I shouldn't have shot in the first place without my consent or knowledge. And then, of course, there's compensation. So I could go further into all that, but the point is, the big lesson here is that there is a legal framework now. Potentially, dare I say, the first in any industry? That might be too bold of a claim, but it's certainly it is the most visible one that we have seen thus far. And that was the big thing that the thing that the three of us on this show have been really, really concerned about, really harping on. But of course, you have things like, in fact, I'm even going to use my handy dandy notepad here, which is you have streaming, residuals, casting, pension and health, performance, the good old Schedule F. We talked about Schedule F and Schedule A, I think, months ago. TV, background actors, stunt coordinators, singers. There's literally a heading called singers, dancers, holidays, equity and inclusion, sexual harassment prevention, the anti-Weinstein clause. No, I'm kidding. Maybe, but animal monitoring, etc. The point I'm just trying to make there with all that. Oh, sorry, I should actually show it on the stream. There you go. The point I'm just saying with all that is that we could go into each one specifically, but the point I'm saying is that this was a comprehensive thing. SAG-AFTRA is a massive union. So is the WGA, but we're talking about SAG-AFTRA here. It's a massive union. It's a craft union, I believe. I could be getting that wrong, but it's a craft union. And it's up and down the industry. You have to cover it all. And honestly, the fact that it's only 17 pages is almost kind of impressive in and of itself, because this is going to dictate how actors pretty much function for the next however many years that this agreement holds for. I want to say, I already forget that number, but a number of years at least, because this is a big contract. And I think one that's going to be a benchmark, not just for future negotiations with SAG-AFTRA and entertainment, but also for every other union and every other trade and every other piece of labor worldwide. Dare I say. Again, I don't want to be like, Hollywood wins, the Hollywood elite are good necessarily. I'm not one of those guys, but it is very reassuring for us folks who are on a podcast that, no, I'm kidding. But for us who like to be on camera and talk about things a lot in front of a microphone, it's kind of cool to see us getting some dues here, even though we're not in the union. But yeah, I don't know. Steve, what is your initial reaction here? I threw a lot of concepts here. I tried to be as macro as possible. I hope that came across cleanly for you. Was I on mute the whole time?
No, you were not. No, you were
Yep.
not. I would have told you by now. No, yeah, you distilled a lot of good points here too. I think, maybe pivoting away from AI, even though it is like the elephant in the room here, I think that the minimum compensation increases are big. I think
Yes.
that's something that needed absolutely to be addressed, probably far, far sooner than it ever did. But performers will earn a 7% wage increase effective immediately.
That's a big number. Immediately, now.
Immediately. That initial pay hike is going to be followed by a 4% increase on July 1st of next year, and then another 3.5 on July 1st of 2025.
Don't say they didn't do nothing for you. That's why that is actually why that is at the top. Those numbers that you just said, that is actually in the first page above AI. The one thing that they put above AI is, hey, here's the money. You're all getting a little bit more of it. That's the big one.
Yeah, and then like you mentioned earlier too, it's really the streaming bonuses too. How that there's going to be success payments essentially along with the usual residual payments. And I still think that and we didn't mention this during the writers' strike, but the interesting point now, and it was a coworker who brought this up to me. I was talking about how now that studios are going to have to disclose the viewership numbers for their projects, which has famously been a very nebulous barometer of info that we've never been able to see. How many people And it's funny, in the age of information, you might just think you can Google how many people watched Red Notice on Netflix. You will not find exact stats. You'll find estimations. You will not find exact stats. It's not like box office reporting. Now, here's the thing. If now that studios are going to be beholden to disclosing viewership stats for streaming content, this is what my coworker brought up. He said, well, you know how like when you're done watching Netflix, like you're done watching a show on Netflix or Paramount Plus or any of these streaming services, the next damn thing wants to start in like 10 seconds. It wants to put you on something else like right immediately before you can even digest the fucking credits. But my coworker was like, well, now that would mean that they might have to pay a residual to the people who then worked on this show if the next thing starts in 10 seconds and maybe you leave it on for a couple minutes while washing dishes. Is that still going to be a thing? And I think that's very interesting because it's going to play into the factor of what constitutes a view. There have been reports, though unconfirmed, there have been reports in the past about Netflix content. This is specifically Netflix. There has been reports about Netflix content where Netflix takes into account if you keep the movie on or the show on for 2 minutes or longer, that counts as a view. That 2 minutes or longer. Now that's a report, but information gets leaked out because people want it out there. And I saw this across multiple reputable outlets when it was released a couple of years ago. So I think like what constitutes a view is going to be very interesting here. Because it's not like you bought a ticket.
YouTube and YouTubers have been having that back and forth literally since the dawn of the platform itself. What is a view? Now there is some hard effing money behind that. And now you're going to see some crazy, big brain conspiracy theory moment, right? I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a sudden push for like in-home cameras that you can connect to your TV and be like, hey, yeah, you can like order pizza through this thing and just put it right on your TV. It connects to your smart TV. Oh, we can put a camera on your TV. And it's like, it's very convenient. You can use Zoom. You can call your grandma from home. And it's like, okay, yeah, but you just want to see if there's someone there in front of the thing with their eyes open. And
it's like a Nielsen. It's like a Nielsen sound, like a Nielsen, watch where you had like legit monitors, like that. Like while you journals, had your TV on, you had legit monitors. That's how they tracked ratings. That's how they track television ratings.
Yeah. And there was like the averages where it was like journals. People would send in journals and they had like a box on it. But then it was like, like monitors. It's crazy how we used to do it before. But now we've got the hard metrics on it. And that is one of the things to watch out for is, yes, Steve, that's a great point. How do you monitor a view? What constitutes a freaking view?
And you said this before too, because like YouTube has been having this discrepancy all the way back, like forever. Since Smosh and Fred were at the top of the YouTube subscriber list. Now I'm really
there's a lot of money there too, but YouTubers are used to the abuse. They're used to getting hoodwinked on every single video, whatever. Now you got some freaking Hollywood Union shit on this. Now you got some Hollywood Union money on this concept. So I think it's going to be that. Oh boy, you called it, man. So I'm waiting for that fight to come down. Interestingly enough, in the realm of video games, I wish Joe was here. Are you familiar with the Xbox Kinect? Do you remember that device?
Oh yeah, my buddy bought it on release week. I remember we tried it out. It sucked.
A piece of shit device. But interestingly enough, there was official filings. I think from Microsoft, for a patent that allowed them to, it was a piece of software that allowed users to, in order to continue with a piece of content they were engaging with, they would have to say the name of the content. So in the patent, they provided an example. It's like, hey, if you want the commercial to be finished, you have to stand up and say McDonald's and then sit back down. And it would detect all that using the Xbox Kinect. That is an actual patent. I wish I had found that. That is an actual patent that exists. And that is terrifying. And absolutely, maybe the video game sector may not be all over that, but Microsoft has that patent, and you bet your bottom dollar, I think now that might be something that these companies are going to be looking at. That is, oh boy. I'll send it to you after, Steve. It's a fascinating piece of patentry.
We could probably go for another half an hour talking about this, but I think we did a pretty good job in giving a quick distillation / overview of this. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Solidarity. No, I'm kidding. I mean, maybe. No, I think, again, we could go point by point. You know what? Yes, there is one more thing. At the top of page 17, point here under wardrobe cleaning. Number 2, increase the maintenance allowance paid for furnishing formal attire, a fur, a national dress costume, a white Palm Beach or tropical suit, a uniform, parentheses, not police uniform, or period wardrobe from $18 to $27 for background actors. Don't say these negotiators ain't do nothing for you. Don't say these negotiators ain't lazy. All right, don't say that they ain't do their homework. That's they get into the weeds. They know exactly where the money is, and they're gonna go for it. And that's how politics is done. That's my soapbox, Steve. You can come back on. That's how politics is done. This is politics. And they did it. They did a politic. Okay, we're good. Keep talking. Okay, back and better than ever. This has been Sleepless with Steve. The last thing I wanted to say is that tomorrow is Chelsea's birthday. I won't say what age she is, but I do know it. And it's happy birthday to her, because she has been an important part of my life. And this has been a hell of a year. Congratulations to you, Chelsea, for finishing last semester, your first semester of grad school. And she's almost done with her second. And she's going to be the Pope. She's studying to be the Pope. That is literally what she's studying. I mean, I guess they just call it seminary. But still, the Pope that's definitely up there. But for now, there's that. Oh, and also make sure to catch Steve Pulaski's interview with Matthew Lillard. I'm a little disappointed that he did not discuss the movie Wicker Park with Mr. Lillard, but he did talk about screen fan theories. He did talk about, what he thought that the Scooby-Doo movie was originally going to be like before it got cut down in the ratings and in the edit to be more kid-friendly. And it's a supremely interesting interview. You can find all that and more on Steve Pulaski YouTube page. And yeah, it's been a hell of a time. So Steve, thank you so much for all the interviews that you've been putting on YouTube. I was just talking about the one with Matthew Lillard. It's been great.
Oh, wow. Oh, I appreciate you name dropping that. I didn't even think to mention that tonight. Yeah, you can check those out on the Y105 YouTube channel too. Search Y105 Dubuque. You can find all those. Yeah, it was a real privilege to talk to Matthew Lillard just yesterday too, do an interview with him. He's launching a new Dungeons and Dragons show tomorrow, in fact, that premieres on Plex TV and Amazon's Freevies network, Dungeons and Dragons Adventures. So be on the lookout for that. You can check out that interview again. It's on the Y105 Dubuque page. You can also find it on my Twitter page at Steve J. Pulaski.
I said it was on the Steve Pulaski page, but that's all reserved for Sleepless with Steve.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. The Y105 interviews live on their own page and such. But yeah, no, great discussion. I want to say great distillation too of the actor strike. This has been a hell of a topic that we've had to sort of battle and part and parcel for the last couple of months. But I mean, even like distilling down a bunch of information on websites is one thing. I mean, this has been an outright, we don't know the half of it, but this has been an outright complete threat of livelihood for a lot of people. And I'm not talking about, the career writers that have it made and have enough money to weather storms.
Or the AAA actors, the Tom Cruises of the world, where it's like, yeah, they get even more money now. You don't know what you're talking. That is actually literally like the welfare queen argument, where it's like, well, yeah, all these single mothers, they may be losing their food stamps, but what about that one guy who lied and got an extra lobster? Like, okay, yeah, sure. That's what we're doing here. Okay, cool.
No, it's true. It's so true. So I mean, I'm glad it's over. I'm excited to see like, what kind of comes of this too. I'm also interested to see kind of the release pattern because there's a bunch of movies that were supposed to come out that haven't yet, that were supposed to come out like September and October that have been delayed for months.
This is the lag time. Yeah.
This is the lag time for sure. And they're even saying, and I guarantee you it played a role in it too, the reason the Marvels opened so poorly this weekend. It only opened with women. Yeah, that's a problem too. But it opened at $46 million this weekend. And I think a good part of that was they really couldn't promote it very effectively because they couldn't go on talk shows. They couldn't go like do, radio. They couldn't get out in front of red carpet events and stuff because the actors were still partially on strike through the whole promotional window of that movie. So the effects of this have been seismic.
I have seen that effing Beastie Boys trailer so many effing times. And it's a good trailer. I'm not even going to deny that. I like that trailer, but Jesus Christ.
That's all you had, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was just trailers in theaters that really, it wasn't like any sort of external promotions and stuff. But we'll quit here. We are back not next week, but the following Wednesday, the 29th. We are going to be reviewing Good Burger 2. We already kind of dabbled into our review here.
Whoa,
oh, geez.
Whoa. By God. By God, it's Joe Viso with a steel chair.
I was like, Max Headroom? Did we get hijacked?
No, I'm here to promote voting for Pedro this year, so please do that. No, I saw you guys were still live, and I just wanted to pop in and just say hi and everything.
Take the show back from the top. We're talking about South Park into the Panderverse today.
Sleepless with Steve live on YouTube on this Wednesday evening. No, great to see you, man. Literally in the middle of the wrap-up stage was just talking about how next week we're going to tackle Good Burger 2. 2 weeks from today, we're going to tackle Good Burger 2.
Yeah. No, I was watching the show the whole time while I was finishing up stuff with my group. I had it on like playing in the background and everything. You guys did a good job. And everything.
Thank you very much, man.
I just want to pop in and say hi and everything.
It was good to see you.
Thank you for
working hard over here and still consuming the show. And shout out to you guys too for holding down the fort for the Five Nights at Freddy's review.
Oh, no problem, man. Thank you. That was fun. That was a really fun show when we did end up playing the game as well.
Gamers.
Yeah, I listened to a little bit of that on my ride over, on my ride over to my buddy. So that was good. That was good stuff, man. Really pleasure to see you though.
Yeah.
You said you'll be back mid-December?
Mid-December. December 13th is the show I'm aiming to be back for. That will be week 8 of this class. By then, we should have everything planned out, me and my group, to where it's like, hey, look, we just got to do this and we're done. So I'm hoping to be back that week. But yeah, I just want to say hi to anybody that's viewing right now and everything. I saw there was some viewers popping up here and there. So and I want to say hi to you guys before I'm gone for the next 3 weeks.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for stopping by. I got to see a little Joe Viso cameo on this Wednesday evening right before we sign off. Good Burger 2, we'll be reviewing that on the 29th. In the meantime, have a wonderful Thanksgiving, too. That goes for you guys and everybody watching. Yeah. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Hopefully you get some extended time off work and school, at least a few days, kind of rest and recharge somehow, some way. We got a month and a half left of this year. We got a ton of movies out. Me and Catherine are going to the theater 3 times this weekend, and then next week we got Napoleon and Wish. So there's going to be a ton of stuff.
If you wear that shirt to Napoleon, Joe, I swear to God.
That'll be great. Did you guys happen to watch The Killer, by the way? David Fincher's The Killer.
No.
Okay. I just got done watching that over the weekend. Highly suggested if you guys have free time. If we need a show to fill in, we can do that.
This is live planning.
Okay, the David Fincher movie. Okay. Yeah. I'm still playing insane catch up from being behind the 8 ball the list.
My Thanksgiving weekend is going to be seeing Napoleon, The Holdovers, and probably one other movie. I want to catch up on
weekend.
I want to catch up on a lot of stuff. I was actually surprised I was able to squeeze in both The Killer this weekend as well as the Marvels, just last minute.
I'll leave you with last point. I did read a brief couple paragraph review of Brett Arnold's review of Napoleon. Mm-hmm. And he gave one of those lines, that's why I hate reading reviews before I've seen the movie, because now he stole a great point now, and I don't want to you know what I mean? I don't want to he stole a great line, but he talks about how Joaquin Phoenix in Napoleon plays a short, self-conscious, anxiety-ridden man with mommy issues. He called it Bonaparte is afraid.
Stop.
Oh my
I'm
God.
like, damn you, Brett. I'm like, that guy's a great critic, by the way. Shout out Brett Arnold. But I'm like, damn it, man, he took a great line. That's a good one right there. But at any rate, had to throw that in there. We'll be back in 2 weeks for Good Burger 2, all those great movies, and we are choosing the legacy sequel to a movie that was summoned from an all that skit. Cannot wait for it. Dominic, shout out to you for running the show tonight. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Dom. Thank you.
Joe, shout out to you for making time for a cameo. For Dominic Guanzon, Joe Viso, previously unseen, now seen. And yours truly. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Eat a lot of food. Enjoy your holiday. Get some rest. And we will see you back on November 29th on Sleepless with Steve.